Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Friday live stream. So, as the title and thumbnail suggest, there are some bad things on the horizon, but there's some good things lurching in. So, before we get into it, I've got some good news and I've got some bad news. So, which one do you want me to go with first? Do you want to hear the positive Moon Boy stuff, or do you want to start with the bad, crappy stuff? So, let me know in the comments section and we'll go from there. Bad news it is. Very smart. So here's what we're going to do. The markets are a funny thing. And unfortunately, when the data comes in, we have to pay respect to the data. This is what Jerome Powell is always talking about, the Fed Reserve. And there's a couple of points that came in, which is kind of causing havoc in the markets right now. Here's what we got. So first of all, this is from a friend of the show, Ben, over there at the CRYPTOVERSE. And he put this on an X. And he said the Atlanta Fed is forecasting real GDP in Q3 to be 2.5%. If that number is remotely accurate, then the market may be getting ahead of itself by pricing in 125 basis points of rate cuts this year. We're going to talk about rate cuts. We're going to talk about how much, and we're going to talk about recessions, and we're going to talk about why recessions aren't a big deal. So stop freaking out. So if that is true, then what that means is we've had a period of GDP decline because last quarter, it was at 2.8%. If this comes in correctly, now we're at 2.5. That is a decline in GDP. That is what the Federal Reserve is looking for to cut rates. Now, on top of that, unemployment rates came out. And it was expected to be at 4.1%. And unfortunately, we actually went up to 4.3. So in that regard, we are increasing an unemployment rate. I believe that the initial claims is actually also risen as you would expect it to. So that means that you got two negative economic factors. You got a GDP growth of stagnation or non-growth, and actually going into a reversion. And now you have an unemployment rate going up. So that is exactly what Jerome Powell is looking for. And right now you're going to hear this term. You're going to hear this a lot. And it's called the SAM rule. The SAM rule recession indicator. And what's great about this is why I always use Ben's website, because everybody who talks to me and tells me about these things, and believe me, I start to digest a ton of information. Thankfully, I've got my friend my man Big E, and he helps me out to kind of assimilate all this info and give me some great data. But you're going to see stuff like this, and you're going to be like, what is this? SAM rule recession indicator. Have you heard about this? I've heard in passing, so here's what it is. So the SAM rule, this rule states that if the 3-month moving average of the unemployment rate increases by 0.5 percentage point or more above its 3-month moving average for the previous year, it is considered a recession signal. Here's all you got to know. This is why I love this site. Link in the description if you want to sign up for it. It's pretty great. 10% off first month. Oh, great. So if we're taking a look at this line right here, see this line? This SAM rule has been a strong indicator of recession coming, either in it or imminent. And we can see that these light lines or these light hue would indicate a recession. Remember the Great Recession, 2007, 2009? There it is. And here's the SAM rule, nailed it. Around here, again, it was a little bit late in the 2000, 2001 dot-com era, but it hit it, and there was a recession. And then, of course, over here, it was close, 0.47 1990s. And you can just kind of see that as the unemployment rate in red has gone up, it is blasted by that SAM rule line of 0.5%. And where are we right now? Today, let me zoom in. We are at 0.53%. So if you're looking at indicators, there's an indicator for a recession. And that sounds awful, but don't worry. Recessions are just an ugly R word. And it's really not that bad. We'll get into that in a second. So what does this mean? Well, friend of the show, Nick over at Coin Bureau, has said this is crazy. The probability of a 50 basis points rate cut in September completely flipped, because in September, we were expecting a 25 basis points. Now, because of GDP decline and because of the unemployment rate, and who knows, other factors may come out before that next meeting, it looks like they're not talking about a 25 basis point. They're talking about 50 basis points. And again, we'll see if Jerome Powell can do what he said he's going to do, which is a soft landing. Let's see. Godspeed. Hope it works out. But Federal Reserve hasn't had a great track record. We'll see. And then, so what does that mean for the markets in general? Well, traditional markets freaked out. And I have to understand why, because you guys aren't in crypto. If you're in traditional finance and you came to this channel, welcome. I'm glad you're here. We have a big tent. We welcome you with open arms. But you have to understand, like these types of movements and these types of news is nothing for us. But I can understand why you get a little bit antsy. So this just in, over almost $3 trillion has been wiped out from major indices and stocks this morning due to growing fears of a global recession. This is the worst day for stocks since March 16th, 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic fears. That's pretty bad. And what does that look like? Again, traditional finance, I get you, 1% is awful, 2% is, I might have to jump out the window. Today, you're looking at negative 2.36%. I know, awful. For us, quite honestly, that's not even a Tuesday. That's pretty lame. But if you take a look at 5 days, 2.72%, and a month, negative 3%, and 6 months, hey, actually, you're doing pretty good. You're up 7%. 1 year, you're up 18%, and over 5 years, you're at 81%. So congratulations, TradFi. It's going to be okay. A recession may or may not be coming. I cannot tell you how many times we have covered a recession on this channel, and it just kind of seems like it's coming, and then it just evaporates. And then we hear Chicken Little, and time moves on. So what does that mean for our market? Great question. Nothing. In the last 24 hours, Bitcoin has actually risen 0.4%. A flight to safety or a flight to quality, depending on who you're actually listening to, and that's where we're at. Now, altcoins have actually not fared too well in the last 24 hours. We can see lots of red, but not too bad. 1%. Monero's up 6%. I guess people want to do some free trading and don't want to be actually discovered. Good for them. Negative 6%, 4%. As we go down, we get more risky. This is why, as we go down, we play more risky roles. This is why it's a great for risk to reward ratio. Sometimes it's just easier just to get into Bitcoin and kind of hold off. Sometimes it's easier to take profits along the way. I know it sounds crazy. I don't know if you've ever heard that on this channel, but yeah, take profits. Nobody ever went broke doing that. Today is not that day, I will tell you. So we had that news. And then as of yesterday, just so everybody knows, the ETF is still going strong for Bitcoin. There's a new player in the game. I don't know if you guys have heard about this. Grayscale or GBTC Mini actually had 3,033 Bitcoin. Regular Grayscale, of course, keeps dumping on us. That's their prerogative. Do not hold that up against them. IBIT, of course, that's with BlackRock, Fidelity, ARK, all those guys. They've actually were reducing, except for BlackRock. But thankfully, Grayscale Bitcoin Mini comes in and buys up 3,000. Sounds good. Positive 794. And what does that look like for the total flow? Well, net, we started off at 2,700. And today we are actually at an all-time high of almost, 299,000, roughly going to hit 300,000 Bitcoin. So pretty strong on our end. Unfortunately, Ethereum, not so much. We're still in a total of negative 456 after Grayscale keeps dumping. We'll see if people actually move over after 30 days to buy up Ethereum. Good for you guys. Take some profits, dump on people, buy right back in 30 days. I don't hold it against you. Congratulations. So out of all this stuff, sounds pretty bad, right? Calm down. It's going to be okay. Here's why. Let's talk about recessions. I know it's a dirty word, but it has to be said. And we actually talked about this. This is a crazy thing. We talked about this in October 2023. And we talked about the probabilities of a recession because, Bitcoin and the altcoin market has gone through a recession. Remember the coronavirus, March 2020, 2 negative quarters of GDP decline. That was a recession. Did just fine. Of course, we stimmied the hell out of it, and we got these nice stimmy checks, and we were printing money like crazy. That's America. We're number one. And we talked about this in October 2023. You can check out the video. And I'm just going to do a quick refresher if you don't want to watch the whole video over there. But this comes down to this little piece. And actually, it was from Trad6166. And he actually put this in the comment section. Again, this is almost a year ago. And he said, looks like we'll be in a recession next year. No way the 4-year cycle will be of any significance, and it might just discourage / prevent people from investing in crypto next year. Then we'll have to wait 8 years for a bull market, anywhere close to last. Crypto would die if that happens. And it made me think, it made me pause and actually think about, well, how do recessions look? And how long do they last? And how bad can it actually be? And how deep will it cut? So when I took a look at it, and just pulled data from, the last Ooh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 or 13 different recessions. You know, the average recession averages, I mean, for the length of the recession itself is averaging 10 months. So it's funny because I said, okay, well, let's just say this happens and we do get a recession. Now, we're not in a recession right now. Let me make that clear. But I said, if we go into a July 2020 recession, which was in the last month, and it does last 10 months on average, the recession is done in May 2025. What have we always talked about in 4-year cycles? Reset, halving, all-time high dip. We just got done with a halving on April 20th. Usually a year plus, roughly 18 months or so, we hit all-time highs. Usually happens around November. Doesn't mean that's going to happen. Just saying that's what has happened the last 3 times in the last 4-year cycles. But it gets even better because you have to understand that a recession, there's a difference between a recession of the economy and a recession of the market. The market always recovers first and the economy handles it second. How much so? Well, this was the last one. We take a look at not the last one, 1990. The recession to the market bottom, when it was actually called, it was 3.5 months. And then from there, then the market started to rise. And 5 months later, then the economy gets out. Same thing in 2001. It was 6 months for the market to bottom. And then it took another 2 months for the economy to catch up. And of course, here we are in 2007, 2009. It took a long time. It was 15 months to the bottom, and that was a bad one. But then 3 months later, then the economy started to actually repair. So if we're taking a look at this and we just do an average, we're talking like 6, 7 months of a recession and then a repair coming in for the economy. Again, it depends on where you're at and what you're doing. So me personally, this is where I am going to stick into the market. The people that made the most money are the ones that were brave enough to actually go through the recession and go, I know this won't last forever. I know if this does happen, I'm in the right place at the right time and I can allocate. So I know when people say this disgusting, ugly word, recession, people freak out. Don't freak out. Know the data, know what to expect, and move forward. Remember, it's in your sphere of control. Deal with that sphere and let the other noise go off. So anyhow, let me know what you think about that in the comment section. And then lastly, before we get in the Q&A, there's 2 things I want to talk about in the Q&A. One is this quote from Donald Trump. And I have mixed reviews about what's going on here. And I'm just going to have you listen to it. It's like 10 seconds. I just want to see what everybody thinks. And we'll talk about this in the Q&A session. So just take a listen to what he says here. This is on Fox News. Let me make sure you can hear this crystal clear. Take a listen.
Who knows, maybe we'll pay off our $35 trillion, hand them a little crypto check, right? We'll hand them a little Bitcoin and wipe out our $35 trillion.
Let me say it again. Let me make sure this is up because I could barely hear it. Okay.
Who knows, maybe we'll pay off our $35 trillion, hand them a little crypto check, right? We'll hand them a little Bitcoin and wipe out our $35 trillion. Who knows, maybe...
Okay, so that's one thing I want to talk about because I want to get everybody's opinion about where you think things are. Do you think Trump actually understands how this all works and Bitcoin? Do you think he'll actually do it? And he thinks this can actually be done. And then lastly, I did a poll on X, which if you haven't followed me on X, you can do so. The link's in the description or not. But I asked the question, what's your definition of a Bitcoiner? And with almost 750 votes or so, some people say you must own 100% Bitcoin only. And then some people said, no, Bitcoin stocks, alts, gold is okay. So the question is, what do you think, what is an actual Bitcoiner, someone who invests in a Bitcoin, and what would qualify them as a Bitcoiner? And I've got my theories, and I got some takeaways. I just want to ask you guys in the Q&A session. And that's it for this piece. So look, if you like today's video, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing. Everything we talk about is time sensitive. Now, if you want to stick around and talk about that, and the recession indicators. And I know I just saw a couple of questions about 1929 and the Great Depression. Could we go with that? Sure. Anything's on the table. We'll go over all that right now. If you got to take off, take off. Thanks so much. Like and subscribe on the way out. Let's get into it. So, where are we? RJ is correct. I hear the R word, and all I think is opportunity. There was a gentleman here in Texas, in El Paso, and during the 2007, 2009, me and my wife have been in real estate for quite some time, and he said, yeah, he goes, I'm gonna stop doing deals. There's something going on in the economy. I'm not for sure. Someone's gonna stop buying and just kind of live off, what the different assets that I actually have as far as real estate. We said, okay, David, you can do that. And then 6 months later, everything crashed. And he had so much dry powder on the sides that he just bought up and just had a massive undertaking and just really cleaned up from those 2 years that set him up for his entire life. So for me, when I take a look at recession, I'm like, this might actually be a good thing. And again, I don't think it's going to last forever. They never do. Just like economic hardships and economic prosperity, nothing lasts forever. Panda speaks 70 languages. My check went to crypto. Yeah, Avanda says, so much for the markets pumping up the having. Well, we knew this was going to happen. Nothing goes up forever, right? Raymundo says, Rob has the best clickbait ever. Remember, not your accusing. I got to tell you, this was a very, first of all, I don't think I'm that clickbaity. I think I'm reasonable. I don't have my mouth open and that O-face stupid image on a thumbnail. And I felt like the title itself was pretty damn accurate. Markets dumping, they are. Recession fears are real, they are. And how long? And I said, there's some good news. And the thumbnail was, this is bad. And it is bad. I mean, it's not like it's great to have a recession. It's just there's opportunities. So, yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Rusty's, I don't care, go back to the 50s. Man, you all have to have USD on the side. I'm not going to deny that. This is pretty accurate. With the Fed rate cuts in August, possibly even though there's no meeting, even though they have no meeting, they can still cut. I believe in the 2007, 8, 9 recession, they didn't have an actual meeting, and they still cut rates. What do they call it? Interoperable or intra-meeting or something like that. So they can very well do it. But we'll see. I thought there was. Let me see. FOMC. Meeting dates. Yeah. Goes June, July, September, October. Unscheduled. And that's just it. Some can be unscheduled or not. So yeah, they can still do it. Depends on how bad it really gets. If we start seeing some more prints of some negative numbers, I can see that for sure. Comes and dumps someday. Okay. Now where do we go? Okay. Jody says, hey, Jody, thanks for that beer at the Bitcoin conference. I appreciate it. There I was a Jody. I like it when the market dumps. I buy more. The Bitcoin is anyone who holds Bitcoin. Exactly. Cletus says belly flop on the like button. I'll take it. What are you buying during the dip? Oh, well, every day there's a Bitcoin order on Coinbase. I know. Coinbase, it is what it is. I'm in America. So there's that. Some days I buy Ethereum, but not this one, even though it's pretty low. I buy Solana, and I get Cardano, and also Toncoin. So, yeah, there's those. Definitely. That is a nice one, right? So Red Panda Pie says, so in the end, what's the definition of a Bitcoiner? 100% Bitcoin, as long as you're a Bitcoin, you're a Bitcoiner. So it was a pretty good poll. And the takeaway that I got was from this, because somebody called me an S-coiner, and I was like, well, that's true. I mean, I do dabble in the S-coins, but over 70% of my worth in crypto is in Bitcoin. So I was like, well, I don't really think that you would be considered like a total S-coiner. And I was like, what does that mean? So let's say like you have like one full Bitcoin, or even it doesn't matter, half a Bitcoin. And then you buy 0.00001% of like, say like Solana, right? Then of course, are you just a total S-coiner because you own that? What if you own stocks? To me, what it came down to is that a Bitcoiner is someone who understands what Bitcoin is. And I think I said this over here. Hey, this is Rebecca. Yeah, and I said this, I go, a Bitcoiner, it's not just about buying and holding. I think it's you figure this out and you say, oh, well, Bitcoin is true asset ownership. And it's one of the assets that you truly own and own by yourself. And there's no like residual type of issue. So like think about, like I love real estate, but guess what? I'll be paying for taxes, a real estate tax, until I die, or it goes into the trust and it goes to the kids and grandkids. So like do I really own it? Do you really own real estate? And believe, trust me, I love it. Do you own your car? I mean, the loan's paid off, right? But don't you have to pay taxes for it every year? Don't you have to pay for the insurance? I mean, insurance taxes, I get it, right? But do you really, really own it? No, because if you want to drive it, you got to pay for that sticker. And then like stocks, so you really own the stocks? Do you really have it? Is it really in your possession? Can you move around with it? I just don't think so. So when I take a look at it, I just think to myself, you know, what's real ownership? That's why people like precious metals, gold, silver. I love them. I like them. I own them. Physical possession. And the same thing with Bitcoin. So true asset ownership. It's immutable. We can't change anything. It's not like the US government, as they just go, you know what, let's just add a couple zeros to the end. Start printing off. You can't do that. You can't change anything. It's finite. That's the big thing. You can't change anything on the blockchain ledger. It is incorruptible. That's the big thing about Bitcoin. And the biggest, and so lastly, it's global accessibility and fungible. I know some people say, well, who the hell cares about, you know, like, I don't need Bitcoin here in America. Maybe you don't, but across the world, a lot of people are having their, and I hate that saying, because even in America, our dollar is getting debased. Did you realize that? The silent tax, which is inflation, we're getting our dollar debased, just like it was in every single empire, just like in the Roman Empire, just like everywhere else. It keeps getting debased, and we keep getting our purchasing power reduced. So why wouldn't I want to get into Bitcoin? I think people understand that, then they understand Bitcoin. I don't think a Bitcoiner is someone who just buys Bitcoin and holds on to it because they're just waiting for the dollar to go up, or money, or numbers go up. That's pretty much it. So I feel like a Bitcoiner is, you understand what it is, you use it for what you feel it's intended to be used for, and I can't tell you what that is. And I even like, I would like people to self-custody, but even in that point, I'm not a big, like, you got to self-custody. Man, I'd like you to, because look what happened with Voyager, Celsius, BlockFi, FTX, whatever. So that's what that was my takeaway. Anyhow, let me know what you think about that in the comment section, but that's just how I see things. So good question, Panda. And if there's something else you guys want to add, of course, I was just rambling on there a little bit too long. Tony says, the only Bitcoin I'd sell is somebody else's. Oh, yeah, John Luis, that's right. Morgan Stanley, as a matter of fact. Where did I put that? Yeah, watch your girl. Just in 1.3 trillion asset manager Morgan Stanley will allow advisors to offer spot Bitcoin ETFs to clients. Well, I mean, the Bitcoin ETF was essentially the highest performing ETF of all time. So I guess better late than never. Like I said here, like, Morgan Stanley, welcome to the party. Congratulations, you made the right choice. Nobody wants to be first, but nobody wants to be last. We're glad you're here. Excellent point. Aristotle, I don't even own my body. If you're in the military, that's exactly right. That's what we always say. Like, you know, don't damage your body. That's government property. Olga says, how to buy Topcoin, Toncoin? I bought some on Coin Wallet. Yeah, like Toncoin. You can buy it on Dexes. And again, everybody, if we're looking for like, where do I buy this or that? Let's take a look at Toncoin markets. And just look through there and see which one you have. And there's numerous markets that you can grab it. Some decentralized, some centralized. I personally just use the Tangent wallet and swap it in the wallet itself. Yeah, that's right. Little plug for Tangent. Links in the description. Sorry. Army Piper, congratulations on the retirement. You deserved it. Army says, I'm not 100% DV, own their homes in America and only if they're in 6 states. Yeah. And again, that is the one stipulation. Here in Texas, I'm pretty sure, because my friend George goes to this, when you are a disabled veteran, you don't have to pay taxes. And this is only in certain counties. It's not all over Texas. and it's not all over the United States. You don't have to pay taxes on your home that you own. Now, if you're a disabled veteran, first of all, sorry, that sucks. I've had my aches and pains, but so far, holding up so far since the Army. But if that happens to you, I mean, thankfully, you don't have to pay taxes on your home. Putin loves Bitcoin now. Yeah, there was a report from BRICS. This is always a story that India and Russia and China and Iran and Korea, they all want to start transacting in other things outside of the US dollar, which I don't blame them if you want to get out of sanctions. So they're going to use Bitcoin. Great. Have fun. Give something for Elizabeth Warren to whine about. Bitcoin maxis are like, you're not a car unless you live in your car. Yeah, like some Bitcoin maxis are like, you should never own any other assets. There's Bitcoin is the way, the truth, and the only way. And you should hold on to it forever and never sell it. Which I got to tell you, there's two things. First of all, if that's true, and I said this in my post, everybody who's like a true Bitcoin maxi, I want you to go up to them and ask them, like, do you own any other assets? And they'll say, no, I don't own anything. I want you to drill them and ask them, well, do you own your car? Do you own stocks? Do you own your home? And just ask, do you own anything else? Just Bitcoin? I guarantee you most of them are going to say two things. First, they're either going to lie, or they're going to say, yes, I actually own some of their assets. You're like, well, what's the point? I always see it like this. I don't care what you do. I'm just saying, like, be honest about it, right? I'm not here telling you, like, hey, you should only own this whole thing, and then me not mentioning the fact that I'm super biased because I own it. I always say that. So that's one thing. And the second thing is, if the motto is never sell your Bitcoin, what did Donald Trump just say there in the interview? He's like, we'll just give him some Bitcoin, and that'll wipe out our $34 trillion in debt, which is be great, right? But who gets that Bitcoin? Well, it's everybody that own T-bills and treasuries and things like that. China, Japan, so on and so forth. Great. I'm trying to get some more Bitcoin. Thank you, Cams. Ton is on uphold. I always forget that. Dogecoin will make great again. I have to agree. I like Doge. I like Doge. Dodge. Dodge is my minivan that I drive around. That's right. Proud of it. Let's see. I'm a biker. Should I live under my motorbike? Exactly. Like I said, I've never met a Bitcoiner who's homeless and goes to sleep clutching his ledger on his cardboard box because it was free and just goes to sleep. I've never met that person, but I could be. Red Ray Boss says some random boomer, but he knows what votes are. True. Those are politicians, right? All Roads says, I get the feeling Trump is not completely orange-pilled, but the better than what we said. I got to tell you, like we talked about yesterday on the NFA show with me, Ben, and Guy from Coin Bureau. Like when I got in 2017, no one talked about this stuff. It was like almost taboo. And if you admitted that you owned Bitcoin or got into crypto, you were almost labeled stupid because like, why would you throw your money away? That's the dumbest thing of all time. Traditional finance, no one was talking about that on like MSNBC, CNBC, all the different squawk boxes and things like that. No one was saying that. No one was covering it. Then all of a sudden, after the crash, and then we came back in 2020, 2021, then all of a sudden, El Salvador thinks it's legal tender. Interesting. There's a guy named Michael Saylor, whoever that is, and he's just putting on his balance sheet for MicroStrategy. Hope it works out for him. And of course, things just went crazy, and then it overpeaked. And now, we go to a convention, and we got two presidential candidates who are speaking to us as Bitcoiners, him and RFK Jr. So to me, I'm like, was it get any better than this? Probably, once everybody figures it out. Glenn says, ICP MFers. That's nice. Glenn says, RFK Jr. is orange pill. I think he is. Oh, nice. Nice. Just bought a nice motor on 1 Bitcoin. So there you go. Bitcoin, health is wealth. Important to stay healthy. Mental health, physical health. It's important to get out there and do things and live a real prosperous life as best as you can. Bitcoin is not those things, but it can give you those things if you're ready to do that. And then some people say, well, I'm just going to do the buy, borrow, die thing. I'm going to borrow against my Bitcoin and go from there. Have fun, man. I tried that route. Didn't work out for me. Maybe the next iteration will be awesome. Yeah, that happens. Do you think Bitcoin peaked this cycle if we have a 2008 style recession? No, but this is what I think. It depends on when you think that peaks are and how you would categorize the timelines. I still look at things in 4-year cycles. I could be wrong. But just like we laid out, let's say it takes us, there's an average of a recession of 10 months. And then if we average that out, it's usually about 7 months before the market rebounds. So let's just say that towards the end of the year, let's say that we get a recession, right? Quarters. And, Jerome can't orchestrate a soft landing. So now we go into, let's see. Well, no, I mean, we could have it in, if we have, let me see. If we have a negative GDP growth, September, that'd be 1. Yeah, it'd have to be the end of this year. So let's say it's the end of this year. Then it takes 7 months. Now we're in July. So what do we see then? Well, we see August, September, October, November as the market and the economy starts to rebound. Now you're pushed out until November, December. Usually that's where we're at anyhow. I never really thought we'd get anywhere until next year anyhow. I know Bob Lucas talks about a left translated cycle. He's already said that he doesn't think that's actually going to happen. I personally thought 2 things. First of all, nothing's going to happen until 2025, like the big stuff. And nothing's really going to happen until we figure out who the president of the United States is. I know people, that's just how I see it. Because markets dislike uncertainty. RFK and Vivek both get it. Absolutely. Time to buy more SOL. Sure. Hey, there was this piece about Solana, and I put it in on Twitter. Let me see if I can find it. It's a video that somebody on YouTube did. And I just put it out there because I'm like, hey, I just want people to, debunk this essentially. Let me see. Here it is. This one. And most people were like, yeah, there's some points in there, but I got to tell you, some people were pissed. They were angry that I put anything negative about Solana. And I'm like, look, I'm not saying this is true. I'm just saying I'm putting it here because people keep tagging me in it. And I want people just to disprove it. It's very simple. Just do that. But people don't want to, they just didn't want to take the time. But as I watched the whole video, here's what it comes down to. You don't have to watch the whole video. Here's what it is. Solana may have manipulated some of the transaction speed, some of the transaction amounts, and TVL. Shocker. So, and I'll just say like this. Almost every single project out there has some dirty laundry. If you don't think that somebody played a little bit dirty to do some things, I think you're a little crazy. And of course, some people say, well, mine's totally perfect. Sure. I hope so. So there's that. And then there was the transaction speed and TVLs and things like that. And then there was a big thing about inflation. And I can just tell you like this, inflation is an issue. And we talked about this when I did my ton video. I said, yeah, inflation right now, I think for Solana is, let me get this straight. Let me get this right before people are like, you're a fudster. The basics. Wow, this is a long one. Here we go. So we talked about this. And I said, yeah, for a ton, annual inflation is 0.6%. ETH is 0.665%. Of course, it fluctuates with how much is being burned or not. Then Solana right now is 5.182%, but final will be 1.5%, and maybe we actually will decrease. So right now it's a little bit, it's inflationary. It's true. That's the truth. I just think that as time goes on, I think that more industries will adopt Solana. I'm going to stick with it. I know some people say, well, that's crazy because Solana's trash. Look, man, or ma'am, or Karen, whatever. I don't know which one's going to make it. I mean, I think it's going to do pretty well, but we never know what's going on behind the scenes. We never really know these things. So I'm just going to hedge my bet and go from there. If you own an altcoin, chances are I do too. I want them all to succeed. They're not all going to succeed, but I hope they do. So we'll see what happens. And yeah, maybe it'll work out. Or maybe it'll go to zero. I don't know. People say, but Rob, the tech and this and that. I'm like, look, there's a lot of great businesses and projects that just don't make it for one reason or another. Or they make some fatal error. Voyager being one of them. Voyager was a great platform. It was, I hate to say it to you. They did a very stupid thing by doing an uncollateralized loan with those shysters, which are Three Arrows Capital. And they did an uncollateralized loan. Dumbest bonehead thing you can do. And that one decision sunk them. And I'm sure there was other decisions after that screwed everything up. But it was all they had to do was keep on with the same business model of being like the hotels.com of centralized exchanges, take all the different centralized exchanges, give us the best deal, and just go with that. And then you guys cover it with the spread. Or you get paid for the spread. Just saying. Yeah, exactly. That's a good one. I'm going to steal that one. 3 arrows to your back. Those guys are still out scot-free. Ah, well. Turbo Dumb says the fabrication of metrics is not a good sign. True. Question is, what can you believe what they say? Exactly. I mean, you can verify this stuff on on-chain data. You can take a look at it, but it takes a while. And, I just look at it like this. If a chain can cover, let's be honest, meme coins were like a big thing. I think they're still a big thing on Solana. And it covered a lot. And they were able to handle those transactions. Was there some slowdown? Yes. Did the chain suffer at some point? Yes. And I think actually there was a breakdown. I think they had like 10 or 11 breakdowns. But in all honesty, I know that's awful and it's terrible. But how many times is like my bank breaks down every time I try to do a wire transfer? It costs me $25 and it takes 2 or 3 business days. Just saying. If there's a breakdown, I'm going to be all right. Hopefully they fix that. And that's why I diversify. Not everything's in Solana, not everything's in Cardano, not everything's in Bitcoin, not everything. I mean, there's a lot in Bitcoin, but sure. Yeah. Shock we're getting more back from Voyager. And the reason was because they actually did some clawbacks and they actually got some funds back from Three Arrows Capital. Never thought that was going to happen. Eos. What could have been? Yeah, Gabriel says nobody's new business is going to do business on a chain with 60 to 70% transaction failures. We'll see. We'll see. Seems like some of these institutions want it. I don't know. I got to tell you, the things that get the most interactions, one, politics, which I try to stay away from because you guys get bombarded with politics all day long. Why do you want to hear it here? So I don't really talk about it too much. The second thing is Solana and Cardano. Ooh, people hate that one. Dude, come on. You started talking about Trump and Bitcoin and then just switch topic by saying, I'll talk about this later. Focus. All right. Put in the comment section. I think people had actually talked about it and said that they thought that, like a couple comments there, about how Vivek and RFK Jr. understand it way more than Trump. And some people said that it's just good that Trump actually talks about it, which I have to agree with. And then, of course, with me, I have to ask the question, like, do you understand how that actually works? And we talked about it and said, hey, if the whole ethos is not sell your Bitcoin, here's Donald Trump saying we're going to sell Bitcoin. Who's it going to sell it to? The T-bills and the people who own treasuries and the debt of America. And of course, who is that? A lot of that is China. A lot of that is Japan. So I don't really know what else you want to talk about. I mean, put it in the comment section right now and we'll go for that. Let's see. Turd says, Kamala is a crypto genius. I don't know if that's true. Exactly. Rob's hair was dark in 2017. It was. It's amazing what almost 8 years will do to you. Yeah. Voyager is doing a much better job than Celsius. We'll say that. Aha. It's a funny, as we like get into the conversation, things get a little bit, more and more down that rabbit hole we go. We have to remember that most of most of the stuff you see on the comments and most of the stuff that you see on Twitter or X is just, it's actually sarcasm or people who have a funny bone. And that's what I have to remember. Trump will swallow any pill as long as it's wrapped in grain. He does like the dollar. Yankee says, see all your easy money. I don't think it's that easy. And it's not money, really, quite honestly. It's way different. I mean, let's be honest. If it was money, we'd just print more. All assets are collapsing. Well, stock market's collapsing. I think the housing market isn't doing that great. I don't know what gold and silver is doing, but you would think that if this is a hedge against inflation and a hedge against recessions, then what is the gold price per ounce? There you go. And to preface this, I own gold and silver. So, hey, I'm up 1.5% today. Killing it. Although, what the hell happened here? 2481. That's in a week, though. How about 24 hours? Oh, okay, that's better. Well, that sucks. Thought it was up today. How about 3 days? How about 1 month? Now we're talking 4%. 3 months, 5%. 24% in a year. 5 year, 89%. And of course, since 1994, I didn't have any. I'd be at 525%. So in 30 years, I could have 5x'd. That kind of sucks. But again, it's risk for risk reward. Riley says, waking up to all this recession fear in the market is hard. If we get a recession, I'm taking a risk and taking out a loan to buy. Damn, that's ballsy. Riley, I'll tip my hat to you. I'm not going to take I can't say I'd do that, but in theory, it sounds pretty good. We're in a recession, things go lower. But then the question is like, how do you know when it's the absolute bottom? That's the thing that I think about. But hey, Godspeed to you. Good luck. You know, it does make you think, though, about dollar cost averaging versus lump summing, right? Because like I've been dollar cost averaging since 2022. I'm just buying little things here and there. But, you know, this is a great time to review the time and risk bands. Let's take a look at that real quick. Because like we could just, like Riley says, we could just get a loan and just start saying, yeah, 6 months, there it is. I make it. Or we can try to be a little bit, let's take a look here. And take a look at the time and risk bands. Oh, look at that. There's no risk. Oh, there is risk. Okay. And this is what I'm using. And again, if you want to, there's a link in the description for the video where I talk about when I'm going to sell 80% of all my crypto. But maybe we could just do like this. As the price of Bitcoin and our other alts, say like, I don't know, let's take Solana. And it starts to go down. The price goes down, so the risk goes down. And we start to really back up the truck, as the kids say, to really start dumping into funds. Like, look at this. Like when it's at the zero. So the question is, let's just go to Bitcoin. I mean, you can do this for a lot of different cryptos, not all. I think it's like 25 or so. Take a look at this. So you got Bitcoin here. What is this 0.3 to 0.4 correspond to? Great question. Let's take a look. Yeah. All right. All right. risk. Here we go. So let's say it goes down to that 0.2 to 0.3 level. What does that price look like? 23,780. I'm not saying it's going there. I'm just saying, like, wouldn't that be like, well, it's pretty damn non-risky, or it's not non-risky, it's less risky at this price level. Maybe I should really start to, that loan that Riley was talking about, maybe you start to really just start to go there. Or maybe like, you know what? This recession is going to be trash. I'm going to wait till it gets to 0.1 or below 0.2, 0.17, 22,000, 20,000, so on and so forth. But what does that mean for like when it hits the top? Well, 1.0 is 164,000. I'm just saying you could do that. It's just one way to take a look at things and going, okay, what's this? What's this? And then just like what I do is I just have the alerts on my phone for the website, and it just tells me, it's like, hey, moron, the risk level is lower. Oh, thank you. And then I, go to Coinbase and update my daily DCA buy. That's it. Something to think about. Let's see. Joe says bad moon on the rise. I got to agree with there. Could be. Robert's got a good point. Maybe alone in crypto winter, but not now. I want to show you this other thing. Because first of all, everybody who's here, most of you guys have been here since 2020, 2021. And the ones that are new, welcome. You picked a pretty good time. But there was this post somewhere. From Wicked. Look at this. Sorry, I should probably show you this one I'm looking at. And I just thought it was interesting because, like, I've been here through, I've taken loans out. Unfortunately, it was on Celsius. And, I got liquidated, but not the worst thing. I mean, if you take a look at what happened to Celsius in general. But Wicked says, I'm just going to borrow against my Bitcoin and never sell it. Of course, he's talking about somebody quoting, this person would apply for a 100K loan. And I'll say, please deposit 200,000 worth of Bitcoin. Which that's pretty much how it is, right? You don't just get one for one, usually. Then Bitcoin drops 50% because it's let's be honest, Bitcoin's a little volatile, is it not? And then, of course, so you don't get liquidated, they're going to say, hey, please deposit, because your loan to value ratio is backwards. Please deposit another 100K worth of Bitcoin. And you keep doing that and keep doing that and keep doing that, or else you get liquidated. Lender declares bankruptcy and all the Bitcoin gets rugged. And that's the Celsius model. But let's just play devil's advocate. Let's say that there is some prospect or there is some Bitcoin loan company that comes out. And you're like, okay, I'll do this. And maybe they are totally regulated by a friend of the show, Gary Gensler. That is sarcasm. And they don't get rugged. They don't rug pull you. But I will tell you this, if you take a loan out, and this is what's going to happen next cycle. People are going to take a loan out at the all-time highs, and then it's going to start to dip because Bitcoin doesn't go up forever. It's kind of still volatile. And they're like, I don't have any more Bitcoin. Or they're going to try to not get liquidated. They're going to put some Bitcoin. Then they're going to have some other crypto that maybe they have, and they're going to transfer that into Bitcoin. And it's going to keep going down, and they're at some point going to get liquidated, which that's what it is. And unfortunately, at that point, usually when you want to do that is for two reasons. Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, if you do that, someone's going to take possession of your Bitcoin. So not your keys, not your crypto, right? And then if you want to go through that process, just know that it's a very harrowing experience, I would say, as things start to crumble down. But yeah, it's up to you. I'm not going to do it. Let's see. Seth said, I haven't bought Bitcoin since 50K. And it was only 0.10. I should have listened to Ben and not bought so many damn altcoins in May and June. You'll be rewarded at some point, unless the altcoin goes to zero. Rob, does your phone really say, hey, moron? Well, my wife talking to me. Work at this phone. It sounds cool. You can make a ringtone of everything, anything, but no, it doesn't say that. Remember, your body doesn't know. You can't say those things because your body doesn't know if your brain doesn't know if you're talking reality or not. So try to be more positive. Don't listen to me. Oleg says there is no soft landing. Things gonna happen this fall. My kidneys are out on loan. You don't need both of them. And you only need up to 15% functioning kidney to stay off dialysis. So that's just something to think about. Just kidding. Papi Chulo says, that's funny. It's hard, but don't be upset or irrational. Try and look at these dips as more time to buy. There's always two different ways to look at it, that's for sure. Yeah, Kranzignator says probably best to borrow on the bear. Not worked out yet until there is full details. Yeah, and in the bear, it works out very well because then, of course, you can start to take even more loans out in dollars if you need to as the price appreciates in Bitcoin. And over time, it'll appreciate. Riley says, Bitcoin have to drop to around 30K for me to take out that loan out. Would set aside about 30 to 40% aside for loan payments. Sure. I missed this whole live. What's the dog roll case these days? Probably going, it looks like we might be going towards a recession, but how many times have you heard that in the last 5 years? And well, to be honest, we did have a recession in 2020. How many times do you hear the sky is falling and there's a recession coming? It happens all the time on YouTube and Twitter. So it might happen, it might not, I have no idea. But just remember that the average time frame for a recession is 10 months. Usually it takes 7 months for the market to bottom. Then the economy recovers. The economy is not the market is not the economy. So if this actually happens at the end of the year, we can still have a nice big fat bull run. Maybe we get elongated, but who knows? That's the gist of it. Nothing else. And Ty Fox says, we are in a recession. True, or maybe, I don't know. I mean, I've been hearing we're in recessions for like the last 6 months. It's a funny thing. But again, the market's not the economy, and the economy's not the market. Even though the market keeps hitting all-time highs, people still massively struggle to make ends meet. I like this. There's this meme. It's hide the pain, Fred. You know the old guy, white hair, coffee, probably about my age now. And he says on the first slide, it says, yeah, the bank wouldn't approve me for a $2,500 mortgage payment or a $1,500 mortgage payment, and now I'm paying $2,500 for rent. That's pretty much sums up everything. Laura says, Robert Kiyosaki has been screaming recession is around the corner for 37 years. He did it on his podcast too. Yeah. I mean, they were right during the pandemic, but I mean, ever since then, like every year you hear someone say, you know, the recession's coming, the recession's coming. And it's always coming. What's the difference? Yeah. Frosty says, I've been waiting for a housing crash for 14 years now. Yeah, exactly. Me too. And I'm going to leave it like this, and we'll get out of here. And anyone's right. Historically, recessions have always been a great time to buy and double, triple DCA, just like we were talking about with those time and wristbands. So I know you're going to hear this a lot. You're going to see some red days. Friday's going to be bad because we're like at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time, so like another hour of trading to go. Who knows? The weekend will have more uncertainty. Expect Monday to open up not too great either, but just be aware that that's par for the course. And it depends on how you look at it. I look at it as like, thank God this happened, because I never feel like I have bought enough. And that's it for today. So look, like today's video, thumbs up, subscribe, all that good stuff. Maybe YouTube alerts you. Probably not. But we do a live one every day. I'd like to get a little more consistent on the time frame, but a lot of things going on. But that's it for this one. So thanks so much, everybody. I appreciate you, and I'll see you on the next one. Have a great rest of your day. Adios.